Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from the Korman Productions Deep Dive TV podcast with my co-host Stacie here to talk about The Institute, Season 1, Episode 1, titled The Boy. This series description, because it's a brand new series we're covering, reads as follows. The Institute follows the story of a teen genius, Luke Ellis, who is kidnapped and awakens at the Institute, a facility full of children who all got there the same way he did and who were all possessed of unusual abilities. In a nearby town, haunted former police officer Tim Jameson has come looking to start a new life, but the peace and quiet won't last long, as his story and Luke's are destined to collide. The episode yes, it sounds cool. The episode description reads as follows. Luke wakes up at the Institute, kidnapped by Mrs. Sigsby, who claims he'll be saving the world. Tim signs on as a night knocker for the local cops. The episode has a teleplay from Benjamin Cavell. He was the creator, and he was the creator of this series. He was also the creator most recently of the Stand adaptation, which, by the way, I completely can't stand. I actually thought it was a terrible adaptation, but so good with this one. He was also a producer and writer on Justified, and this is based on a book by Stephen King. The episode was directed by Jack Bender. Under the Dome, From, Lost, all shows that we've talked about at one point or another. We didn't cover Lost, but it's come up in our podcast plenty of times.
Right.
Before any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a sport-free podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend go check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you are listening on one of the platforms of this podcast, that'll be the one. Please follow and feel free to check out our YouTube channel, Korman Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on our YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to the channel. All right. Now, before I do the usual and kick it off to your thoughts about this episode, I want to say that you and I have been looking forward to covering this series for a long time now. It feels like it hasn't been that long, but it feels like it.
I think it's been at least a year that we've been talking about this one.
Yeah, I mean, it has Stephen King's name attached to it, along with Jack Bender. I mean, those names are not necessarily guarantee of gold. I'm looking at you under the dome. But I mean, Jack Bender has gained some cred, and I think he has more creative input than he had since his Lost days or even his Under the Dome days.
Right.
So and the cast on this one is stacked. Like we know a lot of these people, even the people that aren't from or other shows. For instance, Mary Louise Parker. I've known her since her days doing Weeds, and that's actually to the episode. I mean, for me, just watching her with that kind of baggage in mind, it kind of did hurt my viewing of the episode a little bit anytime that she was in there, because I couldn't help but seeing Nancy Botwin. She was also in The West Wing. She had a pretty lengthy stint there as well as Josh Lamon's girlfriend. But yeah, like, this is an absolutely stacked cast. Totally excited to be covering this series finally. I don't love the timing because, we weren't expecting to cover it right now, and then we ended up picking up another series to cover as well. And then Sullivan's Crossing came back. But, nevertheless, happy to be here to talk about the show. Stacie, your thoughts on this opening episode? Oh, by the way, one more thing. Sorry. Forgot to mention this. We are covering episode 1 and 2 today. We, as of recording this first part, have not actually watched the second part, so we don't know anything that's going to occur in the second episode.
Right. As of when we're speaking, we've only watched episode 1. We're reacting to episode 1. Then we're going to watch episode 2, record episode 2, and you're going to get it all as one very long podcast, I'm sure.
Right. Because, basically, they're going to drop at the exact same... They're airing them as one episode, or basically the same night.
Right.
So that's why we're ending up doing that. It was when taking these notes that I realized, oh yeah, we're back in From territory.
Right, right.
Because this show is way more dense than the things that we typically cover. So my notes ended up like super long compared to the other TV shows. My notes
just
were
for this first half.
Yeah. My notes were basically like movie length notes.
Right.
But yeah.
One thing is the first episode, The Boy, the runtime on it is 58 minutes, and that's without any ad breaks. So this is already an extended episode of television. An average, network show runs anywhere from 42 to 48 minutes.
Right.
For an hour of television. So this is like an hour 20 if you were to put ads in it.
Right. And that's before you even put the second half, the other episode into this. So
right. And I haven't checked yet to see the runtime on that, if it gets shorter or if they're all that long. I don't know yet.
All right. So sorry. Back to your thoughts on the opening episode of The Institute.
Well, like you said, we've been waiting for this one a really long time. I was excited about the series. Watched this first episode a couple of times now to just watch it and then to take these really detailed notes. And like you said, it's a little complicated. There's a lot going on. We've got a ton of characters, and we're going to talk about all of them, which is also something that'll make this episode of ours a little bit longer than future ones. One thing you kind of danced around but didn't explicitly say is that this is filmed in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
This is filmed in Halifax area, same as From and Sullivan's Crossing. So that's one reason we do see a lot of people we know pop up. In this particular episode, there were 4 actors who have made appearances on From. One of them is a regular recurring guest star on this series. That's Robert Joy. So we're going to see a lot of him, I'm sure. But then we had 3 other From faces pop up in this that, we didn't know going in.
Yeah, a couple of which were not on the Internet Movie Database page for the series. So I had no idea.
Well, that's because, we're watching this as a screener. We're actually saw this originally 3 weeks before it airs.
Yeah.
And now, as of when we're recording, we're still about almost 2 weeks out, a week and a half out. So, that's why Internet Movie Database hasn't added the full credits for the episodes yet.
Yeah.
Which also makes it hard. That always makes it hard to take notes because we're chasing credits and trying to figure out who's who. But I think I got it all. Because one thing that was really nice is the end credits for this put them in order of appearance, which was so helpful compared to most things we cover.
Absolutely. That made it easier for me to get. Yeah.
I was like, that's amazing, because I would not have known who girl number 1 or 2 or teammate or lady on stairs was instinctively, but because they're in order, we just had to intertwine the main cast and the guest stars, which of course those weren't in order. Those are based on billing, but I just had to figure out who they were, and then everybody else just fell into place. So that was good. As far as the episode, I know I didn't really get to it yet. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. It's definitely, this one I feel is going to be a little darker than a lot of the stuff we've been talking about lately. I think there's going to be some twists and turns. I don't feel like we really got them yet, but I can see that they're there,
The opening episode was definitely a slow burn because, mainly it was just trying to introduce us to a lot of characters and a lot of concepts right away. So they're trying to just get us comfortable with what the series is actually about, which is it's not a simple concept. Right. So they have a lot to explain and a lot of characters to introduce. Some of whom not totally sure if they're going to be important going forward, but I think a lot of these people are.
That's the other thing is, we never know, if when we're watching something one episode at a time, and before IMDb credits exist, we have no idea. Is this somebody we're going to see every week, or is this it? Is this nobody, or is this going to be the biggest person in the whole thing once the mystery gets unraveled?
Yeah, there was one character that I thought we were going to keep seeing, and then she's dead. So never mind.
Yeah, and I really feel like that was an intentional misdirect, because you know what? She was listed in IMDb along with the main cast right from the beginning.
Right.
And I really think they meant to shock us with the way her character disappears.
They definitely did that. That's for sure.
They did. I was like, wait, what? What is happening right now? So what we're going to do, if you're new to us and you've never watched one of our series before, welcome. Thanks for being here. We're going to go through scene by scene and talk about every single thing that happened in the episode, as well as talk about every single actor we meet in the episode, some of their other credits that stood out to us. I do have several in this week who I couldn't figure out who they were on IMDb, because mostly they have names that there were a lot of different profiles for, and because they're not hooked to the show yet, I couldn't tell which one it was.
Right. And by the time you can, a lot of them aren't even going to be relevant.
Right. But I did my best. So I have a lot of credits to shout out as we go, and we'll have a lot of thoughts about the episode, and we'll start figuring out at this point, really what to figure out is, what is the mystery? What are the questions that we need to be paying attention to going forward? And I'm sure this is one of those series that, we're going to end up rewatching 100 times before we get the entire series, to pick up all those clues.
I definitely get the impression that the show wants to be from.
Well, it's the same people. It's
right. Well,
being produced for MGM Plus. It's
Jack
Bender's directing and executive producing, and From has always had a Stephen King feel to it anyways.
Absolutely. All right. So we have anything else to say before diving in?
Let's dive into episode 1, and remember, stay tuned. After episode 1, we're going to jump right into talking about episode 2.
All right, so the episode begins with the opening theme, which is Shout by Tears for Fears, which came out in 1984. It's a beautiful rendition of the song. It's similar to what they were doing with Que Sera Sera and From.
Exactly. Similar to Que Sera Sera, we're getting a different rendition. And this version of Shout is actually performed by the Lumineers.
Okay, and I'm pretty familiar with the Lumineers, too. I forgot what they do, but there is a song by them that I do know. And do love, but I can't remember what it is exactly. But I looked into the meaning of the song, and I don't see how it fits. But it's about being positive or something along those lines. I meant to actually put down what I got, but I didn't. Maybe I'll do that next episode, I should say.
Right.
I'll put that prepared.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's the original version of the song is loud and happy and peppy, and we're getting a really kind of creepy, eerie version of it. Like you said, similar to what From did with Que Sera Sera. I also found it interesting to note we had no cold open in this episode.
Yes, we just basically jumped right into the opening credits.
We jumped right into the opening credits, and the imagery during the credits sets the tone for what the heck we're about to watch, right? So it's showing the Institute, which, we're presented. It's basically like a school, and, they're doing science stuff. But these opening credits definitely make it look more like a hospital, a prison. It looks like a 1950s sanitarium type of hospital.
I mean, the episode itself, basically presents it kind of that way, as this they're trying to fool the kids into thinking it's something else, but right. I don't think they're fooling anyone, or I'm not even sure they're trying to fool them so much as
pretend that they are.
Yeah, and I think Luke even ends up saying that at one point. But yeah, so after the credits, the episode begins.
Hang on, I just wanted to go through some of the imagery we see in the credits.
Oh, sure.
Because we're probably not going to talk about them every time, right?
No, probably not.
So we see jelly beans, which come up in this episode, sparklers. There's a cigarette machine, which felt super out of place in the credits. One, because we're dealing with kids, but two, because that's not even technology that is used in the last 30 years.
Right. It's definitely old technology.
Yeah. Then we're seeing some of the experiments. Then we see basketball, chess. Then we see this giant pile of shoes, which I could only think was reminiscent of the Holocaust Museum.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, when we went to the Holocaust Museum, that exhibit was closed for cleaning. So we didn't actually get to see the shoes, but I know they exist. Giant pile of here's all the shoes of these people. And there were a lot of shoes in this scene. So again, it feels a little out of place. What why are we seeing that? And it definitely added
Obviously, it's
to
for a
the,
reason.
what was that?
Obviously, it's for a reason.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess we're gonna have to see as we go along. But yeah, that's definitely interesting. Holocaust imagery.
right.
I'm not sure what that's about currently, but yeah, I guess we'll see. Anything
All
else?
right. So after the credits,
The episode opens with students taking a test, which includes Luke Ellis, played by Joe Freeman. He only has 3 credits. One was in a music video. The other is a singular appearance in what appears to be a soap opera. In fact, I'm pretty sure this has come up on the channel before. The show is called Doctors, which has a whopping 4,555 episodes.
wow.
Uh, yeah, that I'm pretty sure we've mentioned that before, but this would be his first significant work, and I'm pretty impressed by him. I think he's definitely a pretty great actor, and that he has a long future ahead of him if he chooses it.
Yeah, I've
A girl,
seen some like short, like behind the scenes little interview clips of Joe Freeman. And it's funny because being like his first real credit, you'd expect usually, especially with child actors, or I'm not sure how old he is, he's probably in his 20s, but actors who are just starting out, you'd expect their first role to be similar to them, right? You'd expect to be like,
right?
oh, they're good at this because they're just kind of being themselves. He's not.
I
Okay.
haven't seen any of those clips, but
He is not Luke Ellis, which makes what he's doing here very impressive for an inexperienced actor. Just seeing who Joe Freeman is and then seeing who Luke Ellis is, it feels like this is a very trained, very seasoned actor. Which is it's crazy. Because we're watching the first episode of his first like series that he's been in.
right, yeah. A girl looks behind him, and it's Phoebe Rex. 9 credits from her that we know of. So far. From, of course, we saw her in From. She was Kelly. That's where I fell in love with her. Kids vs. Aliens. That was a terrible movie. We both had spent our time ripping that apart. It was fun ripping it apart. That was one of the few pieces of media that we saw sight unseen and decided to cover. But yeah, and she was also in To the Moon, which sounds like a really intriguing movie. Uh, Luke raises his hand. The teacher assumes he's looking to go to the bathroom, but nope, he's done with the test, which shocks everyone, including the teacher. And I believe this person is credited as Proctor. She's played by Rebecca Wolf. There's a bunch of them on Internet Movie Database, but the one who has credits that make sense compared to our Nova Scotia talent, she has 7 credits, including Trailer Park Boys. If I'm wrong about this being the right Rebecca Wolf, I'll let you guys know when her credits finally appear on the Institute's page. But I'm pretty confident this is the right person. There's a group of kids.
The person I linked up to, and I don't know if this is the same one you picked out or not, but I have her listed as being in 5 episodes of Mr. D and 2 episodes of Empire.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, those are the type of credits we're used to seeing from Nova Scotian locals. And so she's credited as Proctor because so he's not just at school. He's went somewhere to take this standardized test. It's like something comparable to like an SAT test or something.
Right, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, so she's proctoring the test, as in she's administering the test, but she doesn't know him or anything like that. He traveled somewhere to come take this test.
So after the test, a group of kids find Luke, and one of the kids asks him what he's doing there. And my best guess is this is Malcolm Roberts, credited as Boy. I couldn't find any credits for him at all.
Yeah, I couldn't match him up on IMDb, unfortunately.
Yeah. Phoebe asks him how old he is, and I'm just referring to her as Phoebe Rex here.
Yeah, she's credited as girl number 1, our friend Phoebe.
And he says 14. Another girl asks him if he's a genius. Luke gives an answer, which makes the girls laugh. Phoebe then asks what he got for one of the answers, or I'm sorry, Phoebe asked that question. He explains
it's funny because that's how you've pronounced the name Phoebe. You used to for Sullivan's Crossing all the time, but Phoebe Rex, you know her name,
right?
If anybody's new here, know that I'm bad at pronouncing names, and Dave is 10 times worse than me. It's not intentional, and we apologize.
Right. So he explains to her why she got the wrong answer while sounding very smart, gets pissed, and says she sucks and walks away. Girl number 2 asks if it's weird being him. What the hell kind of question is that? Like, that's the kind of question that I would get back in the day. Like, oh, like, what's it like to be a virgin? Or what's it like to be, like, 15 years old? Like, from kids who are, like, 13 or 12. Like, how am I supposed to know? I don't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
So,
The whole point of this is to show us
yeah.
Luke is a genius, right? He
Yeah.
is doing better than these kids who are a few years older than him.
Yeah.
And he just is insanely smart, is basically the point of this.
Right.
Girl number 2, by the way, she's played by Emily Lux. I also couldn't match her on IMDb.
Yes. So we cut to Luke shooting some hoops with his friend Rolf, played by Bo Hung Fu. 7 credits for him. Most of them are shorts, but a few guest appearances in some TV shows that I don't recognize.
Yeah, he was in Drama Boy and an episode of Davy and Jonesy's Locker.
Mm.
And they're
So
playing a version of the game Horse, but they're using a different animal instead of horse. We're told that the animal that they're playing the game for starts with KUSI. And Ralph is kind of confused by this. He doesn't know how to spell the animal, and he's like, why do we always play animals I've never heard of? So I tried figuring out what the heck animal they're going for here. I had to ask ChatGPT because I couldn't figure it out on my own. And they suggested the most likely animal that starts with the letter KUSI is Kusimansi, Kusimanse, which is a small mongoose-like animal native to West Africa.
interesting. Okay.
So a very obscure animal. And Rolf is kind of right to be questioning this, I think.
Right. So the shot that Rolf takes isn't even close. He ends up missing by a mile. Luke makes his shot, but ends up ripping his jersey, which at first might seem insignificant, but it does end up coming back into play. We cut to an airport where a woman is trying to get someone to give up their tickets for a flight they overbooked. This is Misha Cromwell, 7 credits for her. I got Digstown and The Trades, which are both credits that come up in these Nova Scotia talents all the time. And then we have in this scene, Angry Passenger number 1. She's played by Lindsay Waters, 3 credits for her, including 5 episodes of The Trades and an episode of Moonshine. Angry Passenger number 2, John Lindsay Botten. This will be his 2nd credit. The other is an episode of Mr. D. And Angry Passenger number 3, Mitch Landry. Best guess is this is a person with 4 acting credits and 2 producing credits. I don't know for sure that this is the right person in this specific instance. You got anything different for any of these other people?
That matches what I have. For Mitch, I have that he was in the films Clowns and Robbers and Paranormals.
Okay. And then we find a person who's willing to give up his seat in Tim Jameson. He's played by Ben Barnes. 41 credits for him. I know him best for his 11 appearances in Westworld. He's also in that soap with the 4,555 episodes.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. And 25 episodes of The Punisher and an episode of Black Mirror.
As well as 16 episodes of Shadow and Bone. Yeah, so the flight attendant's trying to get somebody to give up their seat. The passengers are all angry and upset and just want to get on with this. And she's increasingly advancing what they're willing to compensate someone for doing this. And they're trying to rebook somebody for tomorrow, giving them a cash stipend, a hotel stay. And he's like, listen, if you give me $600 cash and a refund on my ticket, he doesn't want to rebook. He's like, I'll just leave. So apparently that's what they do because he doesn't want to get on this plane. He's looking for an excuse not to.
And he found it. On an elevator, he calls a friend, having changed his mind about going to New York and working for his father. He does appreciate the opportunity, but he doesn't feel like he's a good fit. He feels like he wouldn't be any good to his father. Okay, so we cut to him sticking out his thumb to hitchhike. A woman pulls over and wants to make sure he isn't going to SA her or that he isn't psychotic. And he says no to both, but she points out that that's exactly what a psychotic would say. And that's a joke I would 100% make.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Played by Aviva Omor Ostroff. And, probably butchering the pronunciation of that. My apologies. 24 credits for her, including an episode of Murdoch Mysteries, which keeps coming up. I've seen that a lot in the people who appear in this episode, their credits. An episode of The Strain and Goosebumps.
As well as one episode of Orphan Black. And she was the writer and director of the film Loon. She's just credited as woman. They don't even bother giving this character anything besides that.
She has a deal for him. If he helps her unload and reload a bunch of books as they go along, she will take him as far as the public library in Denison, Maine, and he ends up taking her up on that offer. Luke has dinner with his parents. His mom is played by Michelle Monteith. 24 credits for her, including 4 episodes of Haven, 2 episodes of Hudson and Rex, and 2 episodes of Suits. Anything else for her?
Oh, that's exactly what I have.
All right. His dad is played by Tyler Murray, 44 acting credits for him, including 10 additional crew credits as well. And looks like some voice work, the Murdoch Mysteries, and an episode of the Hardy Boys.
6 episodes of Life with Boys and an episode of Orphan Black. I saw Orphan Black repeating a lot on these credits. He's eating pizza with his parents.
And yeah, they basically, they're talking about him going to MIT. And I guess not
now when he's 14.
14, that would make him a freshman in high school. So they're talking about jumping him basically 4 grades to get into college at MIT.
He possibly has already jumped a couple of grades.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Apparently he's been talking with the school principal about going to MIT for some time now, and this is the first appearance or hearing about it. And they're a little reluctant. They're like, can you explain to us exactly why you want to do this? Because you're talking about uprooting our entire lives and moving to Massachusetts.
What? They have to move too? Because
I guess they want to.
Gotcha.
Their kid's 14.
They basically want to stay close to him.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but MIT is the same place that Sam Beckett went to, right? Quantum Leap.
I know Quantum Leap.
I know you know
Sam
Quantum
go to
Leap.
MIT.
Yeah.
I think he might have.
Yeah, it sounds like, I think it might be. But yeah, so as he's talking, he's getting really into what he's talking about. And suddenly the pizza tray just flies straight up off the table. This is apparently the responsibility of Luke. He's the one who did it, but it was unintentionally so. He didn't do it on purpose.
And his parents didn't look surprised. Like they already know he does this. And They just kind of helped cover it up. Like, oh, I'm clumsy.
Right. And his mom says that his brain and what he can do with it is a gift, and they owe it to him to see how far he can go with it. I'm assuming that means that they are going to go to MIT.
Yeah, I think that's where they're landing, because really they gave this whole speech. Like, yeah, they just want to do what's best for him and really, lean into helping him reach his full potential, which nobody knows how much that is, because they're basically saying he's like the biggest genius that's ever lived, is pretty much where they're landing with him. And I just looked up in my Quantum Leap book here, and yes, that is correct. MIT is where Dr. Sam Beckett worked with Professor Lenegro in Quantum Leap.
Too bad that wasn't a trivia question, because I would have gotten it right. All right.
It sounded familiar, but my head wasn't in Quantum Leap space right now.
Right. So late at night, he's in his room looking at his computer. A car drives up. A woman who I believe is Michelle.
This is Michelle, and she was actually in the restaurant watching him.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, okay. She was there. I mean, she didn't speak, but she was there watching him, and she saw the whole tray thing. So she's been tailing him.
Gotcha. She says that the lights are out, but she still wants some more time. She's played by Ellis Bauman. 34 credits were including an episode of Handmaid's Tale, an episode of Murdoch Tales, and Umbrella Academy.
And he's, yep, as well as 6 episodes of Workin' Moms. And in the car with her is the character credited as teammate. This is so she's with her team of people who are, in a creepy murder van. Teammate is played by another From alum, Dylan Bailey.
Yes.
Dylan Bailey.
You can barely see him because it's so dark, and you won't. I don't think we ever get a good look at him, but yeah, he's definitely there.
He's definitely there, and he may pop up again because he does work for this company. So I hope we see him again because it's Dylan Bailey. He plays the Civil War soldier in From, as well as a townsperson. He's credited in episode 309, and also he worked as Harold Perrineau's body double on several episodes.
Right. So
he's very comfortable on the set of From.
Yes.
He also was in 8 episodes of 22 Minutes and an episode of The Trades.
So she declares that they're going to go in 45 minutes, which is sooner than she wants to go in. They sneak into the house, guns drawn. Luke wakes up, says hello, and then Michelle says something that I didn't quite understand her line. It was like, sure, whatever, kid, and then she sprays him with something. I didn't understand what she was saying.
I'm not sure. But yeah, he's been kidnapped.
Right. Meanwhile, Tim has reached the end of the line with his journey. He gives the last stack of books to the librarian, played by Matthew McCarthy. I have exactly zero idea of who he is.
I could not match him up. That's a little too common of a name.
Yeah. It's even a coach of the Green Bay Packers, I think. No, it's not Matthew McCarthy, but yeah, it was just too common of a name. So he says his goodbye to the woman who brought him there. And then he sees an ad for a night knocker.
She says she's going back to Vermont. So that's where he started. I don't know if that's ever going to be important, but Vermont is where we started this journey for Tim.
Yeah, so he sees an ad for a night knocker rather, and decides to go and apply. And we cut to the police station where he's doing just that, meeting Chief Ashworth, played by Martin Roach. 247 credits. That's absurd. Now, you usually see someone with that many credits, and you got to imagine that they have tons of voice work. And that's the case for him. He does, in fact, have a lot of voice work. There's an actor later who has a similar amount of credits who does not seem to have as much voice work. And we'll get to that later. But this person, he, in addition to the voice work, he did 9 episodes of The Expanse, The Shape of Water, which is an award-winning movie, and Cube Zero.
He also was in an episode of Tracker, Justin Hartley's series.
Yeah. Yep.
8 episodes of Lock and Key, which was also filmed in this region. That's the one that Jamie Maguire did some double work on. And an episode of Schitt's Creek.
So Tim neglected to put some things in his application that actually make him look even better. He included an incident at the Westfield Mall, which he's not actually that proud of. And it's actually what resulted in him getting fired from being a legitimate police officer.
Yeah, well, he wasn't fired. He resigned.
Well, he resigned. Yeah,
they gave him the option, and he chose to resign.
Basically the same thing.
Well, it's not the same thing technically. There's a big difference when it comes to what you have to say.
Right. Fair enough. But at the same time, if you're offered resignation in lieu of being terminated, you were going to be fired.
Sure. But it means he's allowed to put on this application that he quit.
Okay. Fair enough.
He chose to disclose the entire thing, and he didn't have to.
Right.
So basically, this is what Ashworth is. He's a little unsure of. He's like, you didn't tell me about your accommodations. You didn't tell me about being Officer of the Year, but you told me about this incident that you didn't have to tell me about. So is this, are you modest or do you have a low self-esteem? And he says, either way, I don't love that.
Right. So he was basically involved in a shooting with a kid who had some weaponry on him. Some pretty serious weaponry, apparently.
Yeah, it was a 16-year-old kid who, it seemed like it was a situation where there was about to be this whole shootout in the mall, right? People were in danger. Tim was off duty, but in uniform. He had just gotten off duty. But the problem came is he had had a drink between the time he
Right.
got off duty and the time he's shopping in the mall.
My guess it was more than one.
Well, his breath had smelled of alcohol when the officers were called to the scene, which was a problem. You know, he killed somebody in uniform while intoxicated.
Yes.
Right. And Ashworth is pretty forgiving about this. He's like, you weren't on duty. He's like, yeah, but I was in uniform. And I'm pretty sure that's a rule is you should get out of uniform before you go drinking.
Right.
So that's really what the problem was. It wasn't because this kid died, because the kid was a threat. He followed all procedures there. The problem was the alcohol was in the mix.
Right.
And he says, you know, in addition to losing his career, he lost his marriage over this. But because of it, he no longer drinks.
Right. Yeah. Ashworth asks him if he's normally a drinking man. Tim admits he was for a while after this incident, which helped end his marriage. But he's been sober for a while. Ashworth ends up asking him if he were to give him a breathalyzer right now, what would he blow? And Tim says, well, let's go ahead and find out. But Ashworth pretty much trusts him and says, I don't think I need to. And then he goes on to say that you're astonishingly overqualified, but if you really want this job, you can have it. And Tim takes it.
And he says, you start tonight. It's from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
That's a crap shift.
You think you'd want some notice to switch to a night shift when you've just been awake all day.
Right.
That's going to be a really terrible first night on the job when you were awake all day and now you're going to work overnight. It probably should have been the next night he started, so he at least had a few hours to, you know, adjust his schedule a little bit.
You know, get some sleep.
Right. Get some sleep in there somewhere. Before we move on, I also want to point out that we see in this scene, Tim looks at the chief's business card and we see the phone number for the police station. This is the Denison River Bend police station. The phone number starts with 207, which is the correct area code for Maine. So that's an applause to them. They got that right. It ends with the number 1408, and that's definitely a nod to another Stephen King short story. So I wanted to point that out.
The movie based on that is really good. I'd like to cover that at some point.
And you see, I'm already looking at this with that From kind of lens. I'm like, this is probably nothing, but let me do a whole deep dive into a phone number on a business card. Because you know that may be important someday.
Right. Meanwhile, Luke wakes up and thinks he's still in his room, but soon discovers he's very much not. First, he discovers that the jersey he tore playing basketball is now repaired.
So instantly he knew something was wrong.
Right. And then the light coming through from the windows is actually some kind of weird lamp. So now he's pretty much freaking out. He exits his room and he finds himself in a hallway. We see a poster that says, your gift is important. And then he sees a poster that says, I choose to be happy, which actually kind of relates to the theme song. Something about that theme song had that as it's the reason for its meaning. Basically, it was trying to be positivity and lightness and all that. And then we see a girl sitting on the floor, probably about his age, and says she was going to change it to choose to be crappy. I forgot why she said she didn't, though.
Because I think she said like she didn't know what they would do, so she was a little scared.
Right. This is Kalisha, played by Simone Miller. 9 credits for her. Nothing that I really recognize.
28 episodes of a show called Detection Adventure, and 13 episodes of something called Run the Burbs. So yeah, nothing I've heard of, but she definitely has a lot more acting experience than Joe Freeman does.
Luke asks her what's happening here, and she says, welcome to the Institute. He's naturally curious as to what that is, and she's amused that he has so many questions, and she actually makes a Wizard of Oz reference, calling him Toto, and says that they are actually in Maine. As they talk, we see someone watching them from a security monitor, and Kalisha says, how much... Oh, basically she goes on to basically describe what she knows about him, but she doesn't know whether he's TK or TP. TK being telekinesis, TP meaning telepathy. She guesses TK, and she's right.
And this is because she's TP.
Right. He asks if she can read minds. She says on and off, and he admits that sometimes things move around him, but that can't be the reason why he's here. He asks if they've been kidnapped, if their parents know where they are, and we get a wide shot of the people spying on them. We don't know this yet, but there's Mrs. Sigsbee, played by Mary Louise Parker, 69 credits for her. Weeds, The West Wing, Angels in America. Stackhouse is played by Julian Richings. This guy, 242 credits.
Wow.
X-Men The Last Stand, Cube, Man of Steel. This is the guy that does not seem to have a ton of voice work. This is just pure acting work. And his resume, if you look through it, is insane. He's no stranger to genre television and movies, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was in 8 episodes of Umbrella Academy, 5 episodes of Chapelwaite, which is another MGM plus Stephen King series, and 5 episodes of 12 Monkeys. I just want to go back to Mary Louise Parker for 1 second. She was also in 6 episodes of Mr. Mercedes.
Right.
Another Stephen King.
Which I have not actually seen much of Mary Louise later work. And I see Lily in the background. Hi, Lily. I have not seen a lot of her more recent work. I'm used to her playing these quirky, weird characters. And I didn't think she had done that much serious work, but she was in Mrs. Mercedes. I noticed that. I haven't seen it, but that's a Stephen King property. So that indicates to me he's done more serious stuff since I've last watched her. Though she was in a pretty serious role in Angels in America as well. But also in the scene is Hendrix, played by Robert Joy. We know him, of course, from this last season's From. 145 credits for him, including Fallen and an episode of Malcolm in the Middle.
He also was in Don't Look Up, Land of the Dead, and 15 episodes of Julia. And of course, like you said, he's in From. He plays Henry in From.
Yep. Victor's dad.
Right.
So Kalisha says they call it recruited and not kidnapped, and that no contact is allowed with their parents. And she mentions tests and shots for dots.
Yeah, she says they get lots of shots. She explains that they're in front half, but when they graduate, they're going to go to back half, but she doesn't know anything about what happens there.
She mentions that Miss Sigsbee is not too keen on answering questions. He asks when he gets to meet them. She has no idea. They usually let noobs wander around first. And he wonders why they would let them do that. And Dr. Hendricks says that no one has ever thought to ask that question. Mrs. Sigsbee says that he will likely notice things that others won't. And Mook says that the info is more likely to be accepted if it's coming from a kid. This is him using deductive reasoning and basically figuring out for himself his own questions.
Yeah, he's using all that smartness that we've been told he has.
So Hendricks suggests that they should consider him for the PC track, but apparently this is something that's not being done anymore. No idea what PC could stand for. So
he wants to do that. And Sigsbee is like, no, we're not doing that. That's on hold. Our main priority is to keep the conveyor belt moving. So no idea what this means, but I'm sure it's something that's going to become significant later.
Right. And she makes a reference to the keyhole being open. Not sure what that means. But so Luke, meanwhile, is openly staring at the camera. And Miss Big Sigsbee declares that she thinks he's ready for her. So
she sends Stackhouse to go retrieve him.
Kalisha tells him it's not that bad here. They got video games, a playground. They can stay up whenever they want, whatever. Just don't break the rules. And she asks him if he's ever had chickenpox before, and then randomly kisses him.
Kisses him very deeply before he can even respond about the chickenpox.
Right. And I'm like, okay, that was random. It's not the only time that's going to happen in this episode either. Mr. Stackhouse comes to grab him, and then we cut to Tim starting his new job.
And Stackhouse is accompanied by Burly Guard.
Mm,
Did you clock him?
I didn't.
He's played by Xander Martell. And you and I haven't met him yet, but by the time this airs, we will have. He's in episodes 309 and 310 of Sullivan's Crossing.
Oh, okay.
So we're about to talk about him again in our other show. He plays an
Fun.
anesthesiologist in those episodes, and I have a pretty good idea of what that means. He also was in the movie To Have and to Holiday. That's the one that Reed Price was just nominated for an award for.
Right.
And he was Ryan Reynolds' stunt double in Deadpool and Deadpool 2.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
Burly Guard, played by Xander Martell.
Okay. So Tim is starting his new job. He's talking about the retro tech. He's given the rundown by Wendy Gluckson, played by Hannah Galway. 25 credits were including Murdoch Mysteries, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, and the boarding school murders. And she's basically giving him on the rundown on how to do his job. And
so she doesn't seem impressed. She doesn't want to get to know him. She's just kind of like, I think they think he's gonna quit. I feel like they've gone through a lot of night knockers, so they don't bother getting to know them or caring about them. Is the impression I'm getting. And by the way, I looked up like what is a night knocker. Apparently, this is a term Stephen King invented. It's not a real thing.
Gotcha.
The phrase night knocker only exists within Stephen King stories. Basically, a night knocker works for the police department, but isn't a cop themselves. Now, we know Tim has been a cop, but he's not employed as a police officer for the police department. It's basically a night security guard, but instead of being for a company or an organization or a campus, it's for the whole freaking town. So his job is to walk the perimeter of this town and just kind of like do security and check that all is well.
Yeah, he mentions that his grandfather was a night knocker, which is why he applied, which is interesting information.
Right. So within the context of this universe, it's a normal thing because he's not from this town. So it's not like it's just a this town thing. He's like, oh yeah, my grandfather was a night knocker. So within this universe that Stephen King has created, night knockers is just a normal part of, small town police work.
All right. So we see Luke being escorted via video camera.
I'm sorry. Before you move on, we met another officer in this scene too.
Oh, yes.
We also met Drew Reynolds. He's played by Daniel Byrne. He was in 28 episodes of Ginny in Georgia, 18 episodes of Working Moms, an episode of The Bold Type, and an episode of Handmaid's Tale. So Drew and Wendy are like the two cops that we've been introduced to so far. And they're both being not that nice to Tim. They're like, yeah, you're gonna, you have to basically walk like all night long. And Tim makes a joke like, oh, I'm gonna get my steps in. And they're just like, nah, you're not gonna it's not gonna be good.
So Luke is being escorted. He briefly runs into the one that kidnapped him in Michelle. Which freaks him out, but he's forced forward.
Yeah, so Michelle greets Stackhouse, and Luke remembers her and wants to like go after her, but the burly guard steps in between and gets really rough with Luke, literally like throws him into the elevator.
So he's brought to Miss Sigsby, introduced to Dr. Hendricks. Luke wants to basically cut to the chase. Hendricks is excused. But Stackhouse stays behind him and just basically stares at him, just to make sure that, Luke is not going to be a threat, not going to harm Miss Sigsby. But then he, too, is dismissed. She gives him a soda, which he drinks, and a jelly bean, which he questions and analyzes. But apparently a jelly bean is just a bit jelly bean.
According to her. But the fact that jelly beans show up in our opening credits, I feel like there's more to them than her just randomly offering him a jelly bean.
Right. So she doesn't like the word kidnapped, of course, and congratulates him for being here. She says the work that they do is the most important work anywhere in the world, and that they are literally saving the world. Well, that's kind of a hard sell.
Yeah, she
But
says without their work, the world as we know it would cease to be,
right.
which really makes you question what are they involved with here? Like we know they're doing experiments on these kids with telepathy and all telekinesis and whatever, but to what end?
Yes,
What are
exactly.
you doing that you're under some impression? And I feel like she believes this statement that the world as you know it would cease to exist without what we're doing.
That's
Like
pretty dramatic.
that's like big, you know. She at
Right.
least is under the impression that they are saving the world.
Right.
And while I don't believe anything she says to these kids, I believe that she thinks this is true.
Okay. So he asks to talk to his parents. Big Miss Sigsby says that's not possible. She won't tell him any info other than what they can do whatever they want. They aren't kids. They're going to be treated as adults. But if you break rules here, there are going to be consequences, adult consequences. The rules are obey all orders without delay. He will be giving shots and tests. For the most part, he won't find these unpleasant. And at the end of his service, his memory will be wiped and he will be sent home. And he asks if his parents are still alive. She says, "Yep, they aren't monsters."
Yeah, she's like,
And
of course they are. I mean, I don't
right,
know if that's an of course question. I feel like it was a very logical question for him to ask.
it's kind of funny because Mary Louise Parker, in her delivery, like in any performance that I've ever seen, always has this insincere quality to it, like where she's not really being sincere, though she's trying to act like she actually is sincere. And that she's very much coming off like that here, and I think that suits this particular character. On the other hand, I can't help but see Nancy Botwin at the same time, and that does kind of like eventually I'll get over that. But
I'm sure you will. That's usually how
yeah,
it goes with new
right,
characters.
right. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the insincere quality of most of her acting choices, like this kind of dry, I don't careness, if you know what I'm talking about. I think it definitely suits the character that she's playing. So yeah, and he asked, "Do my parents know where they are or where he is?" And he said, and she was like, "Yeah, generally."
Right.
Uh,
So maybe like they know he's in Maine is what she's trying to say, but not like what he's doing there
right.
or something to that effect is I think what she was trying to say. Although I don't think that's true at all.
So when she says when he leaves, he'll have no memories of the honorable work that they will do there. So Luke is skeptical of wiping the memories of all the individual kids, saying, "Hey, like someone's gonna know that was missing for
He's
like however
basically
long I'm
like,
gone."
how many people do each of us know in our
Right.
whole lives? So how do you make them okay with the fact that, you know, we've gone missing? And she's like, well, you'd be surprised what we can do.
So Luke says his room isn't supposed to make him feel comfortable, but just that the fact that they're trying to make him feel comfortable, or
Yeah,
it make it look like they are trying to make him feel comfortable, which
right.
is
I
interesting to
personally
think.
think the fact that they model these people's bedrooms down to every last item in the room to make it look like their actual bedrooms just makes it so much more creepy than if they
Absolutely.
were just like, hey, here's a room.
Hmm.
Also, it bears the question in order for them to have prepped his room and made it look exactly like his room, either they've been kind of stalking him for a very long time
Right.
and have like been in his bedroom many, many times prior to the night of the grab in order to get
I
all
mean,
of these details.
they could have gone
Or,
into the room and taken pictures.
sure, but like their goal is to make it look identical.
Right.
And to what end? Because 2 minutes later, you're going to know it's not your room. All that
Right.
effort just so you think it's literally your room. So either
Not to
like,
mention,
go ahead.
not to mention, the ruse is immediately found out because there was a detail that they didn't get right with the jersey.
Right. And I think that's because the jersey just ripped that day.
Right.
So
So they were
so
watching it, but not too closely.
so either my thought is either they've been prepping this room for a very long time prior to the grab because it takes time to put this stuff together, you know, Or the grab did not happen last night. Is
Okay.
it possible he was like kept in a coma or something, or frozen or whatever? Like what was that show? Wayward Pines. Not necessarily for hundreds of years, but like for some time period while they
Right.
prepped for him after the grab.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that's a possibility that wasn't yesterday. There may be some sort of things aren't happening at the same time element.
Okay.
Maybe. And again, I don't mean like hundreds of years or even years, but just like, oh, maybe it's not as linear as it's being presented.
All right. So she says as long as he does what he's told, he'll get back home soon, maybe hitting some baskets with Ralph. I think that's a kind of way to like, hey, I know all about you. I've been watching you.
Oh,
Like
exactly.
that's not like necessarily said to comfort him in any kind of way. It's just to be like, like I know you. I know all about you, and it's kind of more. It's actually the opposite of trying to comfort him. It's trying to make him feel uncomfortable.
Right.
So Tim on the beat meets Annie in a tent, who tells him that she's basically listening to some kind of radio program. I forgot. I don't remember. I didn't hear what she said.
I didn't
What
catch the name, but he's a conspiracy theorist or something along those lines. And Annie Ledoux, she's a homeless woman. And I want to point out that Tim is very nice to her. He's friendly with her from the first moment. He's not like rude to her in any way because she's a homeless woman living in a tent in an alley.
And she's played by Mary Walsh. 23 writing credits for her. 73 acting credits, including 2 episodes of Hudson and Rex, Resident Alien, and an episode of Lex.
She also. Oh, were you still talking about her?
No.
She also was in 12 episodes of Little Dog, an episode of Slasher. She was the writer, like one of the main writers for the Rosie O'Donnell show.
Interesting.
And she's the creator of This Hour Has 22 Minutes.
Yes, I noticed that.
A show that comes up all the time with all of our Nova Scotian people, which obviously living in the States, we've never seen that show and don't know much about it. But I know pretty much everyone we've talked to has been in that show at some point.
Right. She seems paranoid to him and calls him Sport, which is something his mom used to call him. And she even talks about why that's the case. Like
she's like, I know. She called you that after the stage show Porky and Bess. And he's like, how do you know that?
Right. And he insists, or she insists, that he listen to this person that's on the radio program because there are things that he would not believe.
Yeah. So what this tells me about Annie is she would fit in with these kids at the Institute. She seems to have some psychic abilities.
I'm kind of curious if she was actually a member of the Institute at one point, if she was actually in it, like one of these.
She's involved somehow, right?
Right.
And I feel like they're letting us know that she has psychic abilities for a reason.
Oh, absolutely.
I even wonder if, could she have been a recruit? Has this place been going for 60 years?
Right. Maybe. If she was an escapee, like someone who got out of the Institute, I would imagine she wouldn't still be here, right? She wouldn't be hanging.
Unless they did like wipe her brains and she doesn't remember.
Maybe.
We don't know much at this point, but there's definitely some link to the fact that she's like, yeah, I know that your mom called you that.
So we cut to Michelle, who ends up on an elevator with Stackhouse. She's on a 48-hour leave. Stackhouse wants to talk about the next kid they're going to nab, and she reveals that she's kind of pissed about how Luke's nab went, which indicates that went badly.
Yeah, he says there's no looking back. It went how it went, and she says it only went wrong because they made them rush. But he says the reason for that is because if the news broke about MIT, that was going to be a lot of publicity, and they had to take him before he was in the newspapers, and more people started to know who he was. So the fact that they're saying it went bad makes me question if his parents are still alive.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering that myself. I don't think it. I think that's a pretty good indication that either people are dead or, at the very least, severely injured.
Yeah, something did not go according to plan.
Right.
So and we know already these people like aren't against violence, but we're going to learn a lot more of that as we go further. I have no doubt in my mind that the second things go bad, people end up dead.
Right. Michelle starts to leave the facility in her car, texting someone and
Yeah,
using her.
so her phone had no signal in the place, and as soon as the guards like scanned her phone, scanned her out of work, she was able to have signal again, and she started getting all these notifications. And she got a text from whoever she's about to meet, which we'll meet them in a little bit.
So, yeah, the guards, by the way, are played by Eric Mendez and Maxie Taylor. I didn't get credits for either one of them. Did you?
Eric Mendez only had one other credit. It was an episode of 22 Minutes. And Max E. Taylor was also in an episode of 22 Minutes and a film called Big Chess, which he also directed.
So, as she's waiting to leave, a mysterious car starts to drive up. And one guard basically starts clutching his gun while the other guard goes and talks to this person who's in a van with his family. And this man is played by none other than Bob Mann. And
Oh, man.
I hinted at in an earlier podcast. I think it was a Quantum Leap episode or something. But it was basically like
That
when
seems
I was
like a
talking
weird
about this,
place to put it.
I know, but basically I was talking about how, or maybe even revival. I might have done it there, but basically I was saying that when I saw Bob Mann appear on my screen, I started laughing because I had no idea that he was going to be in this episode. And
Right.
seeing, Bob Mann is someone that, we've seen in multiple shows at this point, from Sullivan's Crossing, but we've also talked to him on this channel. So seeing him at this moment was kind of ridiculously distracting.
Yeah, and it's funny because you had teased that in the podcast, and when we were done recording, I asked you because you had watched the episode. I hadn't watched it yet at this point,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Just tell me who," because you said somebody we know pops up in the episode. And I was like, "Just tell me, right? Spoil it for me." And you told me it was Bob Mann, so I knew going into the episode he was there, and it still hit me with that same reaction. I just laughed out loud when I saw him sitting in the car because it just feels so out of place, right?
Right.
We're deep into this super creepy weird mystery, and it's like, oh, there's our friend Bob.
Yeah, I think it definitely shows how, like, us knowing these people does have, like, it's, having talked to these people, it does impact our viewing experience of some of these television programs that we look at, because
Right.
we know these people. But yeah, I mean,
And it's funny because MGM Plus did put out good 2 weeks prior to broadcast, they did
yeah,
put out some publicity showing um both Bob Mann and Robert Joy, and
yeah,
pictures of them with their From characters and they're the Institute characters. And they were like, get ready to watch some From familiar faces on the Institute. So they
yeah, and
spoiled to the audience the fact that Bob Mann is in this.
right. But
Uh,
I had not yet seen that. Like,
yeah,
when I
that
was,
was after we had
yeah.
watched it.
Mhm.
So they spoiled it for the audience though. So from people from Ali who are going to watch the Institute know to look for him. And I think they're going to be disappointed that we only get to see him in this one little scene.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know what this whole scene was about. But I mean, I don't know if he's going to come back or not. At this
I'm
point,
hopeful that he will. I want him to because I mean, obviously
right?
it's Bob Mann. He has a name. His character name is Will, and I think that's a good sign that it's not just man number 6 or whatever.
Gotcha. Also, he was in Good Grief. I didn't mention that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
so he was in 3 episodes of From as Frank, 4 episodes of Sullivan's Crossing as Dr. Hollis, 12 episodes of Good Grief, which is Katerina Bakalias' series, 5 episodes of King and Pawn, which is a Taylor Olson, Reed Price show. All our buddies here.
yep,
Um, yeah, we need all of them to just come do a scene together in one of these shows. It would break us.
right. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Taylor Olson ends up popping up in here somewhere. I don't think
feel
he's
like he
credited.
is, but maybe I'm just thinking of Revival. We're doing a
Probably
lot of shows
Revival.
at once, and
Yeah.
it's confusing
Yeah.
my brain sometimes. Um,
So basically, he's lost. He took a wrong turn.
he gets out of the
Uh,
car and talks to the
yeah.
guard.
Yeah. He ends
And
up asking.
again, the guards are ready to just kill this family if this goes wrong. Guns are raised. And
Right.
Michelle, by the way, is just sitting in her car watching all this, waiting to be let out of the gate.
And at this point, I'm thinking it doesn't even matter if he just leaves or not. I think they're just going to kill the entire family right then and there, regardless. But so he's given directions. He ends up leaving without incident.
And he looks
Yeah,
at the facility and he's like, "What's
right,
over there?" The guard says it's an infectious disease lab, which
right.
obviously isn't true, but that's the cover story to keep people from going in.
Yeah,
But because he was like, "Oh, cool, thanks for the directions," and he gets back in his car, they don't kill him. At least not
mm,
in this scene. I mean, they may chase him down later, but I don't think so. Um,
right.
and then once he gets in the car, we meet his wife. Her name is Heather. She's played by Joanne Broderick. I couldn't match her up on IMDb. And in the back seat, there's a little girl. So the impression, at least, is this is Will, his wife Heather, and their daughter, and they're lost. Now, I do think there's a possibility we're going to see this family again.
Right.
And I mean, we don't in this episode, but I'm guessing, I'm hoping, because I want to see Bob Mann some more, that they're going to pop
Right.
up in a future episode. Maybe they weren't a family that's lost. Maybe this is somebody trying to get intel on the facility, or it was just to show us, like, oh yeah, they have guns. They're willing to kill, and maybe when somebody in the future comes, they will kill them.
Right.
Was it just to show us that, like, what the gate security looks like? Or is there more to this family? I do think the fact that they gave these characters names, Will and Heather, leans to the possibility that they could be more.
Well, we Rex name, so
She didn't have a name. She was girl number one.
right. She's
So
girl number one in my book, but anyway.
So I'm hopeful that we see this family again, but at this point it is unconfirmed. But you know what would have been really something is if the wife and daughter were the actresses from
That would have been
that would have been
funny.
like mind-blowing if they had gotten the same family together. The actresses that played his wife and daughter on From, Lauren and Megan.
Yeah.
And then it could have been like, oh, they leave here and then they go find a tree.
Right. All right. So we cut to Maureen, who's talking to Luke about the tokens and if they were explained to him or not. She's played by Jane Luck. 111 credits for her, including an episode of Handmaid's Tale, Halloween Party, which we covered, and
she was May on Plane in Halloween Party.
Yes, basically the very end of that movie. She explains the tokens are for good behavior and that they let you buy treats out of the vending machine. So he's brought to the testing room where he's introduced to Tony. I could have sworn that I knew this guy, but looking at his credits, I didn't see anything that stood out to me. I didn't even bother to get his credits, but he's played by Jason Diaz. 17 credits for him.
Jason Diaz. I do know him.
Okay.
I'll start with the lesser credits. He's in an episode of Tracker, Justin Hartley show, which I don't watch that. He was in 2 episodes of The Bold Type, which I do watch. But most importantly, I recognized him. He was in 8 episodes of The 100. He's in the later seasons. He played a character named Levitt, who was very important in the later season.
Gotcha. So he pretends to be warm and friendly, but there's definitely a hint of menace in how he acts. Luke is told to take a seat, but Luke basically is not budging.
Yeah, he missed the one rule of do everything you're told and you won't have a problem.
He's already breaking rules. So Tony wants to install a chip in his ear, but Luke refuses. And Tony's like, "Are you sure?" And then basically proceeds to hit him. And then Luke
slams him into a car. His whole face is like red and messed up.
Yeah, and at this point, Luke's resistance is done. Tony seems to be very amused by this. Tony implants the chip on his ear and then tells Luke to have a great rest of his day, and somehow I don't think he's being all that sincere.
Yeah, and also the way they attach this thing to the ear, like it was explained like, oh, it's just a little pinch. That was not just a little pinch. His whole ear is bleeding. It was like 3 double prongs. Like it was way overkill for what they were trying to do.
The doctor tells you it's going to only hurt a little bit. They are lying to you. But in this case, they are really lying to you. So, cut to Tim, who's leaving his hotel. He runs into Norbert Hollister and his lizard friend. And this is Brendan Breiser. 82 credits for him, including 9 episodes of The X-Files as Agent Pendrell, who had a crush on Scully. Very unrecognizable from his X-Files days, that's for sure. 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, and a movie called Downsizing. He was also in a movie called Donovan's Echo, which was a very interesting movie with Donald Glover.
He also was in an episode of Fringe and an episode of SG-1. I feel like this is just a minor little scene with this character, but I feel like he's going to be a bigger deal. He owns the hotel.
I get that feeling.
He owns this hotel, the Stanton Hotel, where Tim is living at, I guess we could say at this point. And real quick, just before we met him, we did have another actress just credited as Lady on the Stairs, played by Beverly Smith. They just kind of crossed paths and they said hello to each other. She's probably not important because she doesn't have a name. And I also couldn't match Beverly up on IMDb.
So as they talk, Tim ends up spotting Annie and goes to talk to her. And he offers to help her out. And Annie kind of suggests that Norbert is not trustworthy.
Yeah, she says, why are you talking to him? You shouldn't be talking to him. And
right.
Tim's like, I'm staying in his hotel. Why shouldn't I talk to him?
Right. Michelle goes to a bar and meets with her friend / lover, Kate, played by Jordan Alexander. 9 credits for her, including 22 episodes of Gossip Girl, the revival specifically. And Kate, do you have anything else for
her? 10 episodes of a show called Sacred Lies.
Kate wants to know about the place she works at, but Michelle refuses to tell her anything. And as it turns out, Kate is a reporter, supposedly anyway. She reveals other speculations as to what is really happening at the Institute, including bringing up the possibility of aliens.
Right. She says these are like the town's theories. Somebody has a theory that it's they're hiding an alien spacecraft. And another theory is that it's a flavor lab with secret recipes they don't want to get out. I think we're falling somewhere between those 2 extremes.
Right. Tim proceeds on his night knocker duties.
Before we go on, we just real quick, we had 2 other actors in that scene, the bartender and the waitress. The bartender is played by Alexander Abriel. The waitress is played by Laura Peterson. I couldn't match either of them, unfortunately, on IMDb.
Okay, so basically Tim, as he's walking, he passes Kate and Michelle, who are leaving the bar. Kalisha goes to fetch Luke for dinner and admits she probably should have warned him about the ear thing.
Yeah, probably.
She tells him that everyone is excited to meet him. He wants to know more about the mind reading thing and how it works. She says she can't really go that deep. It's basically just reading on the surface. She reads his mind for the name of his grandmother, I think it was.
Yeah, Rebecca.
And yeah, Rebecca. And he thinks that that's pretty cool. And then she randomly kisses him again. I'm like, okay.
But she explains it this time.
Yeah.
She explains why she's kissing him. She's like, don't worry, it's not true love. It's a favor. Because when she got here, she was put into quarantine for 2 weeks. No shots for dots is what she says. Now, we don't really know what shots for dots means exactly. But while she was on quarantine, there was no shots for dots. And she says maybe she's still contagious and it might help keep him in front half a little longer. He's confused by this because isn't back half a good thing, one step closer to home? And she's like, well, yeah. So she's being very contradictory.
Yeah, I was curious about that myself. If she really, and it seems like she's buying in. We learned later that most of these kids are buying into the fact that they're eventually going to go home.
Right.
So if she's in fact buying in, wouldn't she want to get the back half quicker? And wouldn't she want him to get the back half quicker?
So it kind of feels like she's not buying in. She's just pretending to.
Right.
If her goal is to be like, hey, maybe I'm contagious and maybe you'll get to stay here longer if I give you this, and that's why I'm kissing you, is because I might be contagious. And is it chicken pox she's trying to give him? Because she asked if he had chicken pox before the first time
Right.
she kissed him.
Yeah.
So I'm confused what chicken pox has to do with shots for dots, what that has to do with anything. And I know we're going to learn more about that in our second episode, because that episode's titled Shots for Dots. So if you're listening to this right now, you probably already know more than we do about that, but we'll get to that a little later.
Yes. In hour 5 of our podcast today. So we meet George, played by George. No, I'm sorry. We meet George, played by Arlen So, and this is his only credit. And also here is Iris, played by Briva Pandia. And I could have sworn I recognized her, but once again, I don't really see anything that I would have seen her in. But she has 18 credits, 3 episodes of Umbrella Academy, an episode of Minority Report, which is based on the movie, and 30 episodes of The Magic School Bus Rides Again.
She also was in 2 episodes of Transplant.
So George asks if he's TK plus or TK negative. If you're negative, you can't move things intentionally. If you're positive, you very much can. So in Luke's case, he's negative because he can't do it intentionally. George, on the other hand, is plus, which means he can manipulate things with his mind intentionally. And he demonstrates this by playing around with a glass of water. First, he knocks over the glass of water. It spills on the table. At this point, I'm surprised Luke doesn't react to that because it spills in his direction. So it should be getting some of that on his lap.
Yeah.
And then George basically uses his mind to basically send the water into the air until
and he's like levitating the water.
Yeah. And until he gets yelled at by one of the staff.
Yeah, this is orderly, although I feel like orderly doesn't describe the person that's mopping the floors. That should be like custodian or something, but he's credited as orderly, played by Donnie Bottomley. He was in 1 episode of Mr. D and an episode of Terror in the Woods. And he tells George to clean it up.
So Luke is impressed, even as George says that's basically the limit of his powers. Iris is cynical, which is why they say she is like Nick, who's walking into the room right now. Nick is played by Fionn Liard. This is his second acting credit. And again, all these kids who don't have that many credits to their name and are probably just getting started are very impressive.
Yeah.
I've already singled out the Joe Freeman. And these other kids are just as impressive, even though they've had not that much experience. And
right.
Fiona is no different.
Yeah, his other credit is 1 episode of a show called Under the Banner of Heaven, which I did see on somebody else's IMDb as well, but it's not something I took note of. So I don't remember who that was.
So Nick is the rebel of the group. He doesn't cooperate. He wants to mooch some tokens from the people who do cooperate,
he gives the X-Files reference, by the way.
Yeah. What was the reference?
He was talking about George, and then he said he said something about like Mulder and Scully, and then he said George wants to believe that everything is going to be all right.
So he doesn't cooperate, but he wants to mooch off the people who did, specifically Iris and George. And Nick Nick briefly holds Kalicia's hand, which does not go unnoticed by Luke, who I guess is feeling a little bit on the jealous side. And I kind of like that.
Kiss him.
Yeah, I kind of like that they definitely have that's there, but they don't dwell upon it. It doesn't turn into a love triangle thing. I mean, it might in later episodes.
It might, yeah.
But as of right now, it's just kind of a thing that's there in the subtext, but we're not like overly dwelling on it. So Nick takes the tokens and brings Luke to get something, a treat. Nick asks if he plays chess. He says he hasn't had a decent opponent in a while. Luke says he does, but he's not in the mood. Nick hands Kalisha a cigarette, but it's and like Luke is looking at
A pack. So Luke went and got like chips out of the vending machine, but Nikki went and got 2 packs of cigarettes out of a cigarette machine, gives a pack to Kalisha, and Luke's looking like terrified at this moment, right?
yeah, that he's actually going to do it. I think he would have been a little disappointed in her if he actually puffed.
But hers were actually candy cigarettes.
Right.
So she just started eating it.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, that's so funny. I thought for a minute those were real cigarettes." And
right.
as he's saying that, we find out that Nikki's cigarettes are in fact real cigarettes, and he lights up.
So Luke is amused and thinks this place can't get any weirder. I wouldn't count on that. Luke asks how old the kids are that were here. The oldest was about 19. The youngest was 10. Nick and Kalisha go off by themselves by a window. They're talking. They're kind of like acting coupley. And Luke, of course, is observing this. George says not to buy into Nick's BS. If he sees the dots, say so. If not, say that. They know when you are lying. So Michelle, meanwhile, is in her hotel room, looking out the window while Kate is sleeping. She wakes up, and Michelle is talking about a bigger story, a bigger story than she can imagine. She's basically trying to get her to report this. She clearly doesn't love what she does and is having moral qualms. Kate doesn't think that she's a big enough reporter yet, but Michelle wants to know, okay, then who can we tell who is big enough? Michelle is having a pang of consciousness, and this is the last thing that she will feel because Kate then shoots her in the head, which shocked the hell out of me. Like
yeah,
I thought this character
Kate
Michelle
took out Michelle.
Yeah.
It was very sad. I liked Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. She's one of those that when I was watching, I was like, I know her from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But then nothing in her credits stood out to me as anything I really know her from. I mean, she was in one episode of Handmaid's Tale, but one episode, I'm sure I didn't
really recognize her from a single episode.
I don't think so. So I think she just looks like somebody, and I didn't quite figure out who. But I liked her. I was like, okay, I can get behind this character. She seems cool. And then nope, she's dead. Bye, Michelle.
Yep. It was nice knowing you. So she calls Stackhouse and tells him that, yep, you were right. She was unreliable. And Stackhouse is pretty quick to pick up on the word was.
And she says she needs a cleaning crew.
Right. Basically come deal with the body.
So unbeknownst to Michelle, Kate actually works for the Institute too. And her job was just to find out Michelle's loyalty to the company.
I'm actually kind of curious if there's more to her job than that.
I mean, probably, but that's what her assignment was at this moment.
So Miss Sigsbee heads home for the night. This episode is 58 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, I don't begrudge what I see on screen. But I think that we could have trimmed a little bit of this. And I think Miss Sigsbee heading home is one of those moments that we could have done without.
Well, I'm curious because we see she goes through a security desk and they check her computer. And I feel like maybe that's going to become important. Like we see people can't leave here, even the head of the place. She's in charge. She can't leave without security checking her stuff.
Gotcha.
So nobody is trusted, I think, is the point of this. Even the literal leader of the place has to go through security and get her bag checked to make sure she's not like sneaking out secrets or something.
Okay.
So she goes through security and then she leaves the building on foot and walks home. So I was confused by that. Is her house within the grounds of the Institute?
That's kind of what it seems like.
Because it didn't look like she was walking miles down that bridge where we saw Bob Mann earlier.
Right. All right. So Luke heads outside because he can't sleep. We get a lovely view of the nighttime sky. Very nice cinematography there. And he encounters Nick, wanting to play chess. Luke is resistant, but he ends up giving in. We
got more of Nick's Luke's logical mind, smart Nick's. Nick asks him, why do you suppose the playground is open late, but they don't bother turning on any lights? So the playground's open, but it's dark out here.
Right.
And I think I don't think Nick was actually asking the question. I think he wanted to know, is Luke smart enough to pick up on this himself? He's testing
Gotcha.
Luke right now. And Luke immediately is quick to respond. He's like, oh, it's so that anybody flying over doesn't get suspicious of what's going on here. Because they'd be suspicious if they saw a playground all lit up at night and want to know more.
Right. So we cut between the game that Luke and Nick play and Mrs. Sigsby as she's making dinner.
And we have a music montage to the song Werewolves of London.
She starts dancing, and this moment right here most reminded me of Nancy Botwin from Weeds when she starts dancing. But then she starts burning herself intentionally. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, she takes a piece of metal. I think it was like a bent up hanger or something. Heats it up on.
I don't know if she gets pleasure out of burning herself or
she looked happy.
Yeah.
She heats it up on the burner where she's cooking her food and then just like brands her leg, where we see lots of similar marks. So this is her regular routine.
Yeah.
And she's dancing and happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what that's about, but that definitely reminded me the most of a Mary Louise Parker character for sure. So we also see Tim doing his night knocker duties, and then Luke beats Nick in 6 moves. He explains how, and Nick asks him how smart is he, and Luke doesn't know and asks why. Nick wants to know if he's the kid he's been waiting for, that is smart enough to know that the only way out of here is to get themselves out, or if he's going to be like the others and cooperate and thinking they're going to go home. He says that growing up in a foster home, he learned not to believe in stories and that no one is coming to save them. Luke says that if anyone knew about this place, it would already be shut down. Nick says if they want out, they have to get themselves out. So he says, so smart kid, how do we get the fuck out of here? And that is where the episode ends.
And that was quite an introduction to this series.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of interesting stuff going on here. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more. And of course, from your perspective, in a few seconds, you're going to be listening to us talking about episode 2. But do we have anything else to say about episode 1?
I think we can leave it there. And, I'm sure after episode 2, we can kind of wrap around the whole where we are so far.
Okay.
Lots of questions. I have no idea what's going on for the most part.
Yeah.
A lot of characters. I feel like they're doing a great job introducing the characters and giving us a sense of like, who can we trust? Who can't we trust? I don't think we can trust anybody.
Right. And you talked about this before, but pilots, series premieres are extremely hard to do. I think they pull it off pretty beautifully here. And I would really expect nothing less from a series led by Jack Bender and Stephen King.
Right.
Then again, also Benjamin Cavill was involved, and Benjamin Cavill, as I said, was involved in the Stan miniseries, the new one, and I didn't like that at all. I didn't like the approach to storytelling. So I'm not totally sure how much he is to blame for that, but it is worth noting. But it so far doesn't seem to be going anywhere near that level of quality. I think this is going to be a quality series. I'm really looking forward to continuing to watch.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a very high quality show. They put a lot of effort into this. It doesn't feel like, this is just a quick turnaround sci-fi show.
Right.
This is attention to detail. It's going to be one of those rewatch and pick up all these little details. Like I can feel it. Because again, It feels like they're showing us all these little random things for no reason, but I feel like they're going to all be important eventually.
Absolutely. And yeah.
Like you said, pilots are really difficult, and they did do a great job as far as pilots go, but at the same time, it's a little slow because we're just meeting all these characters. I wonder if maybe that's why MGM Plus decided to air 2 episodes at once, just to be like, hey, here's more. So you do come back the second week. They didn't want to lose anyone on the idea of a pilot,
It's definitely aiming to be in the sense that it's trying to be prestige TV. It's definitely not comfort TV. That's for darn sure. I think it's going to be a very good series, and I can't wait. They're telling us They were supposed to be calling this season 1.
Yeah.
So we were questioning whether this was going to be a limited series or if it was going to be a continuing series. And so they're saying season 1, and I'm hoping that's where they actually go, is they actually get a
Right.
second season.
And the reason I had questioned that is because I had seen an article, but like not from MGM, like one of those like random internet articles that called it a limited series. And I was like,
Right.
oh, where did that come from? Right. So I asked, I was like, should we be referring to this as season 1 or as a limited series? Like it affects how we talk about it and, you know,
Yeah,
the wording we use when we present our podcasts. And they said season 1, which tells me that they plan on, if this is successful, continuing it into a series, not just a one-off, which would be great.
Yes. All right. So I think that's good for episode 1. Let's move on to talking about episode 2.
We're going to go watch episode 2, but we'll be right back in just a moment to talk to you about it.
So episode 2 is titled Shots for Dots. The episode description for that is Luke bonds with the others as he starts to plot his escape. Sigsbee manages to fall up in the security breach. Tim starts to look into the Institute. The episode has a teleplay by Ed Weilich. The episode is directed by Jack Bender. And I won't do the other blurb stuff because we already talked about that. But all right, so your thoughts on the second episode?
Okay, so again, it's another long one. This one was about 53 minutes before we without any ads. So still a little bit shorter than the first episode, but still longer than an average hour of television. And I do feel like we did get a little more this time, right? We got away from this is a pilot, here's all the characters. We got to dive a little deeper into what's going on with some of these people. There's less new people to talk about also in this one, which is good because there was too many people to talk about in the first one. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm not really sure where we're going a lot with this story, but I want to know more.
Yeah, I thought this was a very interesting second hour of television. I thought it was very good. Definitely intrigued to see where the story is going. I did definitely get a chill at the way the end of this episode ends. But yeah, this was definitely slightly shorter than the pilot episode, but still pretty long. It was
Pretty
only
long.
like 7 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
So yeah, do we have anything else to say before diving in?
I say let's go for it.
All right. So the episode begins with Luke sleeping and flashing back to what happened in the last episode before he's woken. Oh, actually, first we have our opening credits.
Right.
We don't have a cold open again.
Still no cold open. We had a previously on segment and then our credits.
And then so Luke is sleeping. He's flashing back to what happened in the last episode when he's woken up by Miss Sigsbee coming in with a hat and a noisemaker telling him to get up. He's going to miss all the fun. This is the most Nancy Botwin moment of her performance so far in these first 2 episodes. This felt like a moment from Weeds. But yeah, so the fun is apparently a goodbye party for Iris, who's going to back half. Tony, Maureen, and Miss Sigsbee are all there. Iris does not look happy. In fact, she's tearing up and annoyed they didn't get her age right. But apparently, that's not the amount of candles in the birthday cake is not how old she is, but how many days she's been in front half.
Right, which is 13.
Yeah. So Luke is creeped out by the birthday cake at 8 in the morning. Kalisha tells him to eat some of the cake as the sugar will help him on his first day of testing. She also says that Nikki told him that he would help them find a way out. And Luke says he's going to help them all find a way out of there, like everybody. And it's interesting because at several points, Kalisha questions whether going to back half is even a bad thing. but she's still asking for a way out
Yeah,
at the same
she's
time.
all over the place with where she fits into her ideology of if is this good or bad. All the other characters seem pretty set on how they feel, and she's literally riding the fence and on both sides of
Yes.
this.
He is definitely a fence sitter when it comes to this issue. So Nick comforts an upset Iris, and Kalisha tells Luke that Iris is into him. She says she tries to hide it from her, but it's written all over her face. And this is an interesting moment of pettiness from Kalisha. Her friend is upset that she's going to back half, and yeah, it's just kind of really kind of interesting. But Luke asks if she's with Nick, trying to appear casual, and Kalisha says she isn't sure what they are. And at this point, it can't be too far from the surface that Luke has an interest in Kalisha. So
Yeah, I
she
mean,
she has to be that.
during those dreams he was having, one of the things he flashed back on was Kalisha kissing him.
Yeah,
I think those couple of kisses did have some effect on Luke, even though that's clearly not how she meant it.
right. I mean, he's a 14-year-old boy. A
Right,
kiss like that going to have its impact.
right.
So Tony is his usual jackass self, scaring Luke by exploding a balloon right behind him, and he cheerfully says he'll be seeing Luke in a few hours. Iris is led away crying, and Nick says they won't ever see her again, despite agreeing that they would see each other in a couple of days.
Yeah, so
Maria,
they're putting on this face, right? Even to each
right,
other, but
yeah,
definitely to the benefit of the staff. Like, oh, we're going to see you in a couple days because we're all going to graduate front half and we'll re-meet up in back half and it's a good thing and nothing's wrong. They're putting on that affront, even though most of them do not believe it at all.
right. Marine escorts Iris down the hallway, and as she does so, she holds Iris's hand. Meanwhile, we cut to Tim, who's going downstairs in his hotel room, where he encounters Norbert, who wants help with his iguana while he cleans his cage. He has called. He was. Oh yeah. So Norbert has gotten a call from the police station telling Tim to come down to the station when he gets up. And as it turns out, Wendy called him down there because of a series of robberies that she wants to be on Tim's radar. She offers him a weapon, which he declines, and her attitude towards Tim is still very skeptical. And at one point, he's like, "Yes, ma'am," and she's like, "What? What do you mean calling me ma'am?" And he wants to know, well, what she should be calling. He should be calling her. He's like, she says, "Officer." Um, Miss Sigsby and Stackhouse talked to a mysterious person in charge who was never directly shown. I'm pretty confident that the person on the phone is played by Jeff Bowie, who was in Lost and Under the Dome. And he hasn't shown up in From yet, but we
Yeah,
have definitely talked about him in Under the Dome.
yeah, I'm pretty sure his name's pronounced Fahey, Jeff Fahey.
Hey, okay.
But yeah, this is definitely him. He is credited as a special guest star in the episode. So we have our opening credits and we have our guest stars. He was listed as special guest star, and they were very secretive about him. They're shading his face. It reminded me of like Inspector
Dr.
Gadget.
Claw. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Where it's like this is the big boss. He's the one really in charge, but it's a big mystery of who it is. So we don't know who the character is per se, but it's definitely Jeff Fahey. Which you mentioned, of course, he was in Under the Dome. He played Sheriff Perkins in that show, which we're gonna get back to covering eventually.
Yes, eventually.
And he was Lapidus in Lost.
And she's got these Chinese stress balls that I had a kid. Basically you just take them and you like twirl them around in your hand. It's supposed to relieve stress. I had them like when I was much younger. I think I probably still do, but they're deep in storage if I do. And on the other end is this mysterious person. He's playing with some like rosary beads, which is kind of like a religious thing. Basically, I think it's in the Catholic Church, so that's interesting. And they are talking about what happened to with Michelle, how they are now short-handed, and there's some obvious tension between Stackhouse and Miss Sigsby. he in fact throws her under the bus at one point about her
Yeah.
security clearance.
He's like, I don't know if everyone on this call has clearance to talk about that. Specifically about Kate, the reporter. Because
Right,
Sigsbee didn't know about her existence until this phone call when the big boss
right.
brought up Kate.
It's interesting that we're now playing with the tension between the staff because that's not something we got into in episode one.
Right. We were
Uh,
told Sigsbee is in charge.
right.
Right now, we're being led clearly that's not the case. She's actually not very powerful at all. She's only in charge as far as the front they're putting on to the kids.
Gotcha.
As far as the kids
So
know, she's the boss, but Stackhouse seems to be higher than her. We've got this mystery boss on the phone now, and it makes more sense now why she had to go through security in episode one before she left the building, because she's not the big boss.
right. So Stackhouse talks about Kate being an actual reporter. So she's not just an assassin masquerading as a reporter. She actually is a reporter. And basically he's turned her into an asset. The mysterious man says there are a bunch of keyholes coming up, so they'll need more kids and to do more with less, unless she wants the committee to be told that she can't handle her end, which probably means that they would probably kill her. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
that's the
don't
kind
think
of
you're just getting fired from a job like this.
right. So Kate is suggested to be used for snatching and grabbing kids.
Right. So they
Uh,
originally wanted Sigsbee to give up one of her in-house staff, and she was like, we're already short-staffed. We can't afford anybody. She suggests Kate. Stackhouse says he'll make it so, but clearly he's not happy about
not
this.
happy. No.
Um,
So
and all this mention of keyholes, by the way, we still have no idea what that means. It comes up several times in this episode. It just made me go like, what are we doing? Are we playing Kingdom Hearts? Because that's all I
yeah,
can think of when they keep saying keyholes.
I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm guessing we're gonna learn more.
Yeah.
So yeah, this conversation on the phone ends, but Stackhouse and Miss Sigsbee they continue to talk. She's not happy that he threw her under the bus. And he basically goes on to say that he trusts her. Well, no. He believes that she's not gonna basically share information or do anything to undermine anything that's going on here. Not because he trusts her, but because she would be worried about the consequences.
He
Um,
says, because you would be just as screwed as the rest of us. And that had
he
me
would be killed.
questioning, does he mean like, oh, this would be bad for you personally? Or does just as screwed as the rest of us mean like the world ending?
I think he's talking smaller than that. I think he's at this point just referring to you're gonna get killed if you reveal any information. We're gonna like kill you, shoot you in the head, just like we did Michelle.
Yeah, but he said like as all of us, meaning if this gets out, everybody.
Right.
Everybody, them,
Well,
the organization, or everybody. Because remember, she was indicating like we are saving the world by what we're doing.
yeah, I think Stackhouse is thinking in smaller terms. He's not worried about the world. He's worried about himself more than anything else.
Well, sure.
And I think he's thinking directly about themselves and not the whole world ending. And that's my take on it anyway. Um, Tony escorts Luke down to testing. Luke says he can't do his gift on demand. Tony tells him to take can't out of his vocabulary. It's a beta word. Luke is brought in. Hendricks introduces himself, and even though they've already met, and makes himself seem very friendly. Luke is resistant about sitting down, but does so after Tony is like, please spare us the teachable moment. In other words, don't make me hit you again.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
Luke
he
needles Hendricks.
asks Hendricks, he's like, are you actually a medical doctor?
Right. And he brings up the Hippocratic Oath, though he's talking about it in like the original language that it was in. Um, and basically, Hendricks is very unimpressed with this, saying that all surgery is harm. But I mean, I don't think this is on that level. Like, basically, performing medical procedures on a person who doesn't want it is very much against the Hippocratic Oath, and that
Well,
it's more harm than doing surgery.
what he's saying is the ends justify the means.
Yes, that's
Um,
absolutely what he's saying.
he is indicating again to the same idea that Sigsbee once told us, that like, hey, this is bigger than us. This is important. He is
Right.
saying this work has a just cause, meaning at least the way he's presenting it. Not that he necessarily believes it, but he's at very least pretending he believes it, that we are doing good, even if like it sucks for you or it sucks for me. We're doing something good for the world, and it doesn't matter what we're doing to ourselves, because otherwise the world's going to end or whatever.
Right. Tony is about to inject some green substance into Luke's arm, but Luke wants to know what it is. And Tony's basically like, "What do you care?" And Lucas says, "It's going into my arm. I would like to know what this is." And Tony's like, "Exactly. It's going into your arm regardless. So it doesn't really matter what it is." And he does end up injecting him, and he's like, and yeah, Tony is basically like, "The only reason you want to know what it is so that you can be smarter than everybody else." But I don't think that's the case. I think that Luke genuinely wants to know what the hell this thing is that you're putting in his arm.
Right. Like, that seems like a pretty normal question to ask when you're being injected with
Yeah,
something, is you want to know what you're being injected with. Or at least like, hey, let me know what to expect. Right? What are the
right,
symptoms I'm about to experience?
right. But their bedside manner is not the greatest.
Not at all.
Hendrix
And
Hendrix asks,
go ahead.
asks about the dots as he starts to get woozy. His vision goes all crazy. And then what else did you want to say?
So this moment, so we have Luke in the chair and we're seeing things from his perspective, right? And the
Yeah,
camera's kind of wobbly, and we've got some double vision stuff going on. The drugs are clearly affecting him. And we see Tony, the way that Luke is looking at Tony. And I know that you haven't watched The 100, so this doesn't mean anything to you, but this shot, I couldn't help but see um Jason Diaz as his character from The 100, because it's almost identical to what his character is in that series, where he hooks a character up to a chair, hooks things to their head, and then we have almost a perfectly mirrored like shot of like them looking at him.
okay,
It was like
that's
the
interesting.
same scene.
Gotcha. So we cut to Annie, who's desperately trying to talk to Mrs. Salone. Tim happens upon the scene and tries to interrupt this with an offer of breakfast when Drew ends up driving up. Drew's attitude towards Tim has gone from dismissive to actively hostile here. He won't fill him in exactly what the story is, what happened here between Annie and Mrs. Salone, and he just tells her that it's his job to keep her away from Mrs. Salone. I'm not sure why that's specifically Tim's job, but whatever. And I don't get what the deal is here with Drew's attitude.
I
He's
mean,
like,
I think all the cops, not the sheriff necessarily, but both Drew and Wendy just are not accepting of a new person into their fold.
I mean, fair enough, but I mean, Wendy was not this actively hostile towards him. She was just kind of like passive aggressively
Yeah,
hostile towards him.
right.
He's Drew is basically in his face saying, "Yeah," I don't know, like basically like this is your problem, deal with it.
Yeah.
Is he even
So
on duty
so
at this point?
did he what?
Even on duty at this point?
No, Tim is not working right now. He just kind of saw an altercation and tried de-escalating it. And he
Yes.
did an appropriate job, I think, of de-escalating a situation.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
So what we know at this point is Annie's trying to convince Kelly Sloan that her daughter's death wasn't an accident, and Kelly Sloan does not want to hear it. Kelly Sloan is played by Sandy Lee Cranston. She was in one episode of Digstown and an episode of 22 Minutes, and we'll learn a little bit more about that story later.
All right. Luke's test continues. He sounds weaker as he tells them that they are setting themselves up for disappointment. He says he's really trying, and Tony says hostilely to try harder. Hendrix suggests giving him a boost, which means another shot. He says that if he sees the dots for his own safety, he better tell them. And
And
Luke manages
also
to.
he says also keep your teeth clenched because I don't want you to bite off your tongue. So in other words, like
And
this
Luke,
is pretty dangerous.
yes. And Luke manages to levitate something and then moves a chair. Tony looks impressed and says with false cheer that no one is going to believe in him unless he believes in himself. Those are inspiring words. And then Luke proceeds to vomit all over the place, and neither one of these characters seem to give a damn.
Yeah, this is pretty status quo, it seems like. This is how it
Right.
goes.
Yeah,
You'd
and
think that would mean they would have had a proper receptacle ready for him to throw up in, but they don't. The
right.
nurse like hands him a bag, which he
For the
misses.
bag.
He misses
Yeah.
the bag completely. You think they'd be better prepared for throw up in this room.
Right. So Luke goes to the general area and is escorted by Marine. Luke hasn't seen the dots yet. She tells him that once he does, he'll start to feel better. She tells him to eat something. He encounters Nick, who tells him he looks like shit. And Nick says the first time that he on his first day he stabbed Tony in the nads. But of course, this is something that Nick is actually just making up. He ended up vomiting on his shoes. Kalisha Kalisha is helping George, who's stumbling all over himself because he underwent the last test, which is the Dream Box, which sounds like a gaming system of some type,
Yeah.
or even something that happens in like Nightmare on Elm Street. Uh, it's the final test in front half, and apparently it dredges up things from your subconscious.
Yeah, so we're because Luke asks, well, what is the dream box? And basically we're told that you see all this really bad stuff, and the only way to make it stop is by lining up the light. So it's by forcing you to use your powers to make these lights line up. In other words, you're going to be in distress until you physically use your TK or TP or whatever they're testing you on to alter the state around you. And this just made me go like, what is this, a Dharma project? This
Right.
feels very much like what happens in Lost. Remember in Lost, they are testing kids. They kidnapped Walt because he showed special abilities and they were testing him.
Yeah.
And they had these
Mm-hmm.
whole experiments that involved video screens and like subjecting you to images of weird shit. It sounds very much like the same thing. And if I didn't know this is just based on a Stephen King story, I'd be pretty convinced at this point that this is low-key a Lost spinoff.
Possibly.
And
I mean, Jack.
The Institute logo almost looks like it could be a Dharma logo, the little eyeball.
Interesting. I mean, Jack Bender was involved in both. I think he's
Was.
more creative force here, but he was still involved. Tony comes in and basically is his usual fun-loving self. He's basically a jackass, and then he ends up leaving. Miss Sigsby goes to what looks like a supply closet that has like lots of
It's a
games.
storage closet with kids stuff. I figure it's either leftovers from the old kids or the setup for a new kid that hasn't come yet. It's not the kid we're going to meet this episode, but
Right.
it's like all kids stuff. So either it's random collections of stuff they just have, or it's literally like, here's the culmination of what we've been gathering for somebody to prep for them.
And in comes Dr. Hendricks, who's using one of those blue pills. You know what?
This is a super weird interaction.
This is the ship I never knew I wanted. And after witnessing it, I still don't want it.
And neither do either of them, it seems like.
Right.
So
right.
They have a super weird, intimate encounter. She's clearly not into it. She's like, I don't want to see it. Like, just get on with it. She doesn't want to talk. And he says, do you have the jump rope? Like, it was so weird. I felt so uncomfortable watching this scene. I'm like, what is happening?
Right. I'm never going to look for Joy the same again.
Is it because they're isolated and like they can't leave the facility and these are the only humans they can interact with? Or like,
maybe.
Why are they doing this?
I don't know.
Because again, and
So
neither of them seemed into it.
in the courtyard, Luke and Nick talk and scheme. They shoot some hoops, and they do so badly, by the way. They keep missing shots as they talk about the camera system, which Luke says was cutting edge about 10 years ago. Nick, after listening to Luke, says, he's describing the security, and Nick's conclusion is basically like, okay, so we can't get past the security system. And Luke smiles and then says, Tony says that can't is a beta word.
Which Tony or Nikki doesn't like hearing that.
Right. So Luke says they need to recruit someone on the staff. Everyone in every organization has a weak link, but they can only do this once because if they try to recruit someone and fail, then they're going to get reported, and that's the end of that. What they need, according to Luke, is someone with a powerful TP to find somebody that could actually perform this function for them.
Right.
But says that by the time anybody shows that kind of power, they're shipped off.
Yeah, they said Kalisha is nowhere near that powerful, and she's the lead in it. And by the way, what is Nick? Is he TK or TP? I don't think we've seen him do anything.
No, we haven't really established that at all. They noticed the smokestacks, which we saw. We saw in the opening shot, I think, towards the beginning of the first episode. They make specific notice of it here. You brought up something about the Holocaust in the first half of this podcast. This is kind of reminiscent of that too.
Yeah, so this is back half building that they're looking at across the campus. Yeah. There's black smoke coming out of the pillars. Nick says this happens about once a week or so. It definitely feels like the implication is they're burning bodies.
Yeah, but so, I mean, everyone seems right. Yeah, Iris is being it seems like, what is the point of doing this if you're just going to kill the person going to back half?
Exactly.
Like, what is the purpose?
We know they're trying to enhance these kids' powers, right?
Right.
But no matter for what they're doing with them, it doesn't make sense to just kill them as soon as you've trained them.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Unless for some reason they die in back half after a certain period of time and then they incinerate the bodies. But that's like a horrible way.
Maybe a lot of kids are dying accidentally during second half training.
Maybe.
And that's not their goal to kill them, but there's a lot of collateral damage.
I mean, that would make sense.
That would make sense. But I definitely don't feel like their goal is to just kill these kids when they're done.
Right.
Because they got to be using them for something. Otherwise, what's the freaking point?
Right. So Luke doesn't think this is very eco-friendly of them, and Nick jokes that he should report them. Tim talks to Wendy.
So he's starting the shift now.
Yeah, she was told about what happened with Annie, and Drew apparently had a lot more positive things to say than you would think from the interaction that Tim and Drew had during that. But yeah, they talk about Mrs. Salone, and she specifically says that from the sounds of things, he was able to talk Annie down. So Drew had to have told her that,
right?
But it doesn't seem like he. I don't understand why he was so hostile there, but then goes to Wendy and talks positive things about what happened there. It's
possible he just objectively told what happened, and Wendy's interpreting it better than Drew did.
Okay. Maybe.
We also learned during this that Tim's mom had some psychosis, and so that's why he's used to dealing with situations like what Annie has been expressing. So they talk about Tim's mom a little bit, and basically why he is so keen on protecting Annie and standing up for her through all of this. And they talk about Kelly Sloan's daughter, Zoe. We learn how she died. Wendy tells us that when she was a freshman, Zoe was a senior. So this isn't a kid that died recently. This is a long time ago, many years ago. Zoe was a senior, and 4 kids, including her, went drinking. There was this place called the Red Steps, which was a place in the water that everyone knew it was unsafe to go, that they were drinking. And then 2 days later, the four bodies washed up on shore. So presumably it was some accident that they shouldn't have been there, and they were there and they died in the undertow. Annie, who didn't even live here at the time, is now insisting that it wasn't an accident and is trying to convince Kelly Sloan of this.
So Tim points out the fact that Annie knew about what his mom used to call him. And when he's like, yeah, I mean, occasionally she has these wild moments where she definitely predicts things and knows certain things about you. And then he says he's going to go check on her. And there's a definite thaw in the relationship between Wendy and Tim here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So Luke sees the staff preparing a room.
So this is Iris's old room. It's being turned over for a new kid. And we see a race car bed and a lot of very childish things, indicating that the new recruit is going to be much younger.
George is messing with his powers using a coin to get stuff out of the vending machine and then getting his coin back. George asks him what Luke would like, and Luke's favorite candy bar apparently is a Mounds bar, or an Almond Joy, was it?
He wanted the Almond Joy, and George was like, "Oh, I took you for more of a Mounds guy." I'm not sure if we're supposed to get something out of that.
Right. Kalisha and Nick are cozy on the two chairs. And basically, Luke goes and talks to them. Nick mentions that George is probably going to go to back half soon. Kalisha asks if he's 100% sure that's not a good thing. And Nick is like, spare me. Kalisha seems to think that they can trust Maureen. Nick isn't convinced. And they decide to end up playing some ping pong.
Yeah, they go to play ping pong because we learned that Maureen has taught them where in the rooms the microphone on the cameras can't reach. So when they're at the ping pong table, they can't be heard. And then that's what they're talking about, is like, well, obviously we can trust her, because if we couldn't trust her, why would she bother telling us the spots that are safe to talk?
Right.
I'm also going to point out they don't know for certain that that's true.
Right.
She told them these spots are safe to talk, but that doesn't mean they necessarily are. There could still be people hearing every word they say when they think they're safe.
Right. Luke brings up the new kid, which is coming, and I thought they were supposed to be informed about the kids that are coming.
Yeah, Luke was apparently informed, but nobody else has been informed yet. The new kid's name, he says, is Avery Dixon, and he's from Salt Lake City, and he's coming tonight.
Nick gives him some crap, or gives Kalisha some crap about using her magic on him, and basically, like, Kalisha is like, "Shut up!" I do have the chicken pox, and then Luke is like, "Yeah, I don't know. This kid seems kind of young to be playing with magic. In other words, maybe you shouldn't be making out with this 10-year-old that's coming." The dynamics between these characters are interesting and kind of fun. It's not the typical love triangle stuff that they're playing with here. So I kind of find the dynamics here interesting. So we see Tim stop at a gas station with an out-of-order ATM. We meet the attendant, whose name is...
Oh, you're going to make me say it? I apologize profusely. I'm going to attempt. His name is Gutale Dobira, and I'm positive I said that wrong. He is played by, I'm going to get this one wrong too, Tawa McCarthy, who unfortunately I couldn't match him up on IMDb.
Gotcha. So he's he's an immigrant from Kenya, I think he said.
He mentioned a couple different countries. I was having a hard time following his story, but basically we learned that he was 3 years into an economics doctorate before something led him out of the country, some turmoil. He had to leave his country, and then he was in a refugee camp, and he moved around a few places. But now he's landed in Maine, and he says it's a new beginning. I also want to point out, I don't have a doctorate in economics, but I do have a bachelor's degree in economics, and I feel like the economic theory he was spewing is wrong. So I'm just gonna point that out.
Okay. Basically, his theory was consumption drive, or not consumption. Production drives consumption is basically what his opinion was.
Right. But the basic concept of economics is that it's all based on both supply and demand. Both
Right.
factors are equally important in driving a market.
Well, apparently you don't have half a brain because he disagrees with you and says that if you don't agree with him, you don't have half a brain. But all right. So yeah, he's very smart. He seems to be clicking with Tim. He tells him his copy is on the house from here on out. I was like, all right, this character is going to come back into play. And later when we see him, I'm assuming he's just going to be dead. But that turns out not to be the case.
Yeah.
But Luke at night is outside in the playground. He's paying attention to the guard patrol units.
Yeah, he spots guards with dogs outside the fence, which is a little weird. Like,
yeah.
are they looking for something in particular? It's like the guards are the dogs, I mean, are like actively sniffing around. Like there's something specific they're looking for.
Maybe there's a missing kid. So Tim does his rounds and goes and visits Annie. During the middle of this conversation, Tim hears gunfire. He tells Annie to stay put and he runs off. And once you know it, it's the gas station attendant. He's being robbed. There's two robbers inside. Tim calls out to them saying, put your hands up. It's the police with nothing but a flashlight. He does not have a weapon at this point. He's threatening them with literally nothing.
Right. We were told earlier his only objective is to call it in if he sees anything. That's not what he does. He directly intervenes.
So they shoot at him.
Yeah.
He ducks behind the car. They drive off. And then Tim goes into action. Inside, he finds the attendant shot. He looks for things to save his life. He ends up finding diapers and Vaseline to try to patch up this wound.
Yeah, and then he calls it in to at this point, asking for backup.
So we got to Dr. Hendricks, who's coming out of a supply closet. Was he coming out of the same supply closet getting Nookie from Miss Sigsby?
Oh, I thought he was just coming out of the experiment room or his office or something.
So he ends up talking to Stackhouse, who's disabled the cameras to have a super secret conversation.
So yeah, basically Stackhouse is trying to gauge Hendricks.
Right.
And is trying to have a outside of what we should be talking about conversation with him.
Yeah, he wants to set somebody up on the PC track. We're still not totally sure what that's about. That's a track that
I'm pretty sure PC means precognition.
That makes 100% sense.
That's my guess. Meaning can see the future.
Future. Right. Kind of like Minority Report. So basically they end up leaving this room at least.
And he's questioning specifically if Luke has the potential to be the kid that he's been waiting for because of his high IQ.
Tim, meanwhile, is continuing to help the attendant when Drew ends up on the scene, and it's pretty clear that Drew is useless.
Yeah.
He's already falling apart. Tim has to talk him through sending an APB and calling for an ambulance. And basically Drew is, getting lost and like Drew, call the damn ambulance. And then he gives Drew the description of the vehicle, the first couple of numbers for the license plate, and then there's three more numbers. And
Drew is very reluctant to do all this, but he does. And he calls it into Wendy. And I want to point this out. Wendy and Drew were both on duty early in the morning when when Tim first went and he was like summoned to the station to go talk and ask if he wants a gun. And now it's like the middle of the night where he's on duty. Do Drew and Wendy like just work 24 hours a day? Because they're still on duty.
I mean, it's possible that he was on call, that he went home and then he had to respond to this call.
Are these
Uh,
the only police officers in this town?
so we're basically heading into a Sullivan's Crossing situation where two people do everything.
We have two
Uh,
officers and a sheriff and Tim, who doesn't have a gun. That's our police force.
right.
24 hours a day.
So at home, Sigsbee talks to her ailing dad. At least that's the impression that I got.
Yeah, she
She lied.
mentioned something about his
Yeah,
aide. He's not happy with his, I'm assuming, nurse's aide. Um, and then she talks about her fake life. So her dad thinks that she's a elementary school teacher.
right. And then after this, she hears Stackhouse and Kendricks talk outside her apartment about the conveyor belt for keyholes. Basically, that's what the whole thing is all about. Is just but like the kids are on a conveyor belt, two back halves, so they can do this keyhole thing.
Yeah,
He
and
wants
does
us
that kill them? Maybe they do the
maybe
thing they need to do, but then it kills them in the process.
perhaps he wants to develop someone for PC. You think that's precog, and I think that sounds about
That's
right.
my best guess. I was
And
trying to
then
like, what could this stand for in the realm of
right.
these abbreviations we're using in this show?
And then sell them to an interested buyer. Sigsbee witnesses this conversation, but of course can't hear what they're saying. And Stackhouse basically says, "Hey, watch your pillow talk with Miss Sigsbee." So Stackhouse knows that Hendricks and Sigsbee are sleeping together.
Right. And also, we're definitely left with the impression that Hendrix is kind of okay with going along with this
Right.
by the end of the conversation. So the two of them are in cahoots now to go outside of what the Institute group, it's referred to, wants to do, and they're just kind of going to do their own thing.
So we're kind of seeing some fractures within the people that are running this institute, which is interesting.
Right.
The attendant, meanwhile, the attendant, the gas station attendant, is wheeled into an ambulance. Tim gives Drew credit to Ashworth for arriving quickly. Drew goes off and starts his report. Ashworth says for Tim to do the same, but Tim is still on duty. Ashworth says, "All right, but make sure you bring out the part where you chased off two armed robbers with no weapon." So I kind of think that even though Tim has given Drew the credit, and that Ashworth seems to be going along with this when he's talking to Drew, that he knows full well that this was not Drew, that all this was
Right.
actually Tim.
He absolutely knows exactly what went down. And he's letting Tim give Drew the credit, but also letting
Right.
Tim know, like, hey, I know it was you.
Right.
Kind of like a backdoor, like, good job,
Right. So Drew thanks Tim. Tim says he was great, but Drew, of course, is like, no, I wasn't. I was terrible.
Yeah, and
But next
suddenly
time,
their relationship is now in a better place as well.
right. Yes. All it took was for Tim to do his job well, I guess. So Luke, meanwhile, is awakened to the sound of crying. He finds a kid. This is Alex, I think, laying on
Avery.
the ground.
Avery is
Jeffrey?
his name.
Avery, okay. Nick and Kalisha come to his aid. The kid communicates something to Kalisha, which is basically that he has a peanut allergy.
Right. He's
And
talking
then,
to her telepathically.
right. And then Jeffrey is taken to his room. Or Avery, I'm sorry. I keep saying the name wrong.
Yeah, so George takes Avery. Apparently he soiled himself. George is going to take him to get his pants changed. And he's very freaked out, by the way. This kid is very young. You said 10 earlier. I think he's much younger than that even.
Yeah.
And he woke up during the night So this didn't last till morning when, this normally happens. He woke up during the night, found himself in the hallway, and he's basically having a full-blown panic attack tantrum on the ground. And the kids
Right.
are all, coming to his aid. And the peanut thing came up because Nikki wanted to give him a Reese's, and it probably would have killed him. And he was too hysterical to actually say something, but he was able to tell Kalisha telepathically.
Gotcha. So Kalisha tells him that this kid is strong, and Nick and Luke want to know how strong. She compares herself to a D2 swingman, which I think is a college player in a D2 school or whatever. She says that this kid is actually Michael Jordan. And Luke and Nick light up, and Luke says, "Ask and you shall receive." And that is where the episode ends.
Right. In other words, they said they needed someone with uh, a strong TP in order to read the staff and figure out who is vulnerable that they can work with, basically. And now suddenly they have a kid who is very powerful, more powerful than anybody they've ever seen. So all they got to do is get the kid on their side. The kid can figure out who in the staff is vulnerable, and then they can plan their escape. Is the plan they're going for?
Yeah. So yeah, that was an intriguing episode for sure. I'm very interested to see the next episodes after this one. So far, I think they're doing a great job with this series. It's definitely lived up to the hype that I had for it.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the season.
One thing I want to bring up is when Sigsbee was talking to her dad and she's pretending she's a teacher, she mentioned 2 books. She mentioned A Wrinkle in Time
Yep.
and The Phantom Toll Booth. Between
I'm familiar.
and the possibility that PC means precognition, I feel like we're mentioning a lot of time elements.
Okay. So you think this is gonna be a timey-wimey show?
I don't think time travel, but I think time is playing some element here.
Interesting.
If we're trying to get kids that read the future,
Right, okay.
Wrinkle in Time obviously is about it's about not about time travel, but about time manipulation. And then the Phantom Toll Booth has themes about like one of the character is like a clock, basically. So time is an important part of that story too.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, if he's talking about that's not really necessarily the goal of the project at this point because they're not trying to develop a PC person. At least not the Institute isn't.
Well,
Hendrix.
One of them had said at some point during that conversation that there are other facilities working to that end, meaning that half or maybe a whole different place, but like it's not their job.
Gotcha. So,
but they address that the element exists somewhere in this procedure of what's happening.
Okay, interesting. So someone is developing precog somewhere. It's not their specific job to do it.
But they're trying to find a way to monopolize it and profit from it.
Gotcha. All right. Do we have anything else to say?
I'm just really curious what the heck the actual objective of this organization is.
Yeah.
Are they actually doing something to save the world? Like, or is that just full of shit and they're just trying to make money?
I mean,
and what's a keyhole?
Right. I would really like to know what a keyhole is.
I hope that we learn more sooner than later.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we only have like 8 episodes this season, so there's only like 6 left to go. So I'm assuming, but then again, it really depends on their intention if they're doing this as a limited series or if they plan to have more than a couple of seasons. How much we're actually going to learn those 8 episodes.
Right.
But
and they did tell us NBC or MGM told us directly to refer to this as season 1.
Right.
So that tells me they're not closed off to the idea of extending the story.
Well, hopefully they end it in a way this season at least where it could be conceivable that the series could just end while also leaving it open for the possibility that the series will continue.
Exactly.
So that if we get canceled and we don't go on, we're not going to be left with like, an unfinished story,
Right.
which would be very frustrating. But I think that MGM is definitely going to support this series. Well,
Yeah.
like we said, they want this to be another From, so I'm
Right.
pretty sure they're going to give the show a chance.
Right. They seem to be putting a lot into like advertising and networking, and there's been a ton of social media posts about this series ahead of its release.
Yeah,
I am really looking forward to seeing what the audience has to say after watching these 2 episodes.
absolutely.
So let us know. What do you have to say? We want to know
Right.
all of your thoughts. Give us all of it, the good, the bad. What do you think? How are you feeling about the Institute after this 2 episode premiere?
All right. Anything else to say before concluding?
That's all I've got. We'll be back next week with episode 3.
Looking forward to it. All right. We'd like to hear from you. What'd you think of this episode? What'd you think of this podcast? Stacie, we reached at.
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. And I don't know if I even mentioned this. I created a Facebook group for the Institute.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
called the Institute MGM Plus Series Fans, following the same format I used to title our revival group. So go ahead and join that group if you want just a place to talk about the show in a little more detail.
All right. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Korman Productions. You can join the Korman Productions Facebook page. You can buy something from the Korman Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Korman Productions starting at 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Korman Productions, signing off.